embracing AI. Those who don't embrace it are going to get left behind, I'm sorry to say. And I think the big deal is it's a great equalizer for small firms.
The bigger the ship, the harder it is to turn.
Well said.
Welcome to the show, and today our guest is the man known as the Millionaire Maker. Ken Hardison is a lawyer, but most of us know him as the founder of Pilma. Since building and selling two successful multi-million-dollar law firms, he has dedicated his career to helping other legal professionals grow their practices. Jon and I can't wait to dive into his approach to building a practice that gives you more profits, more cases, and most importantly, more freedom. Please welcome the one and only Ken Hardison.
Oh, thank you. It's my honor.
We have a ton of questions that we want to get in and start the discussion with. Jon and I have been prepping nonstop for this conversation. It was actually kind of hard for us to narrow down the things that we wanted to talk to you about. But to kick it off, Jon, one with the first question he wanted to ask you.
I think there's a lot of value that you can add to law firms who are watching this show today. The first thing I want to kick us off with, and I think it's going to set the table for our conversation, is what is the biggest challenge that you see law firms facing in 2025?
In 2025 and 2026 is embracing AI because they don't know where to start. And I've had the same problem. I have immersed myself in it in the last 6-8 weeks. Those who don't embrace it are going to get left behind, I'm sorry to say. And I think the big deal is it's a great equalizer for small firms. It's not just for the guys, the 10, 30, 40, 50, $80 billion law firms. I think it would be ideal for a solo practitioner who cannot afford to hire the staff and the manpower to get the marketing done or just everything. I'm using it. I don't even know how to type. Okay, Jon? There's a long story behind that, why I don't type, but suffice to say, ChatGPT-5, I use a voice. I use it as a thought leader. We're using it. We're creating our own little chat bots. We're getting ready to start creating IA agents. You'll be the first one to know about this. I was going to announce it next week, but we're having a AI for PI lawyers in January in Orlando. We hadn't announced it yet. We'll announce it 1st of September. But I saw the need. The great thing about me, what I do is I get to talk to a lot of lawyers every day. And one of my first questions, what's your big challenge? 2 years ago, it was hiring staff. 3 years ago, then it was finding lawyers. Then it was learning how to hire and manage offshore or remote players. Now it's AI. I think that's the big deal. Last year we did a virtual event on how to hire and hold on to A players. We do a big event in May every year, but I always try to do a separate one. I used to do SEO boot camps, but I try to figure out what's on the pulse of lawyers, what's the pulse out there, what's the big problem. And I think that's it. And I think I just want to see what happened about 20, 25 years ago when the internet came out, and a lot of the older lawyers, this is just a fad. It's not going to last. And the younger lawyers, they were I had this one guy, he was getting trucking cases up in St. Louis left and right, man, probably in his early 30s. He was killing the guys that were spending millions on TV, and they didn't have a clue. And he's very successful. In fact, he bought a bunch of Bitcoin about 10 or 15 years ago.
He divested his fortunes.
Yeah, I think he invested like 60,000. I think it's worth about 7 million now, 10 million. I don't even know, but what I'm saying is any business, especially lawyers, have got to learn to adapt and have got to learn to pivot. When COVID hit, we had to pivot. Law firms had to pivot. And the ones that did it successfully prospered. We had some firms, I've seen some firms that have never really recovered from COVID. They didn't adapt, they didn't pivot. And I think that's easier to do with a small firm than it is a large firm. You see big corporations get so bulky.
The bigger the ship, the harder it is to turn.
Absolutely. Well said.
It's funny, Ken, that you bring up AI too. It's like is the biggest challenge going into it. Prepping for this podcast, unveiling some secrets here. I had AI do a deep research on you, find everything about you, build a profile on you, and then I was able to take it and then put it into like an audio recording. So it summarizes up for it. And when I was working out, I was listening to your background, your biography, and like themes about you while I was working out. So that was like multitasking. Like Gemini was able to handle the whole thing for me with all the sources and like run through it. And I listened to it 2-3 times to like know like what you're about, some things you've talked about, your background, and was able to like quickly, when someone would take a person a bunch of work to do for a week, like did it in 30 minutes.
I'm glad you didn't fall asleep.
I will say Gemini does a good job. They like throw it into like a podcast form. So it puts like, makes 2 fake hosts that talk to each other about you, like interesting.
Oh, I love it.
And like, they're surprised about the facts and like it keeps you engaged. It's very good for me to like multitask for prepping for these and to make sure I'm up to speed on someone's background information before I speak to them.
I want to follow up on one point that you made about AI for law firms and how they should be adopting it and that being a challenge for them. Where do they get started? Right? There's this broad spectrum of all the different things they can do. How do they take one incremental step forward?
So I don't claim to be an expert, but I've talked to a lot of people. I've talked to a lot of potential speakers, interviewed them, picked their brains, read up 2 or 3 books. And what I'm seeing is you need to start slow, figure out how to use it personally so you get comfortable with it. But you got to use it for a lot more than just like a jazzed up search engine. It's like, so there's a book called AI Driven Leadership, and I read that and I talked to their people, and I'm using it now as a thought partner. What I mean by that is, if I got a situation I'm trying to figure out or a challenge, I give it the context, and then I say, ask me one question at a time. Very important, because if you just say, ask me questions, it'll just shoo. So you want to be able to answer each question, and then they might have more questions based on the answer. And then at the end, it'll give you possible strategies. And it's just not me using it. In that book, there was a $100 million company. The CEO was using this to help figure out how to solve a problem over in India. So it's not just Ken Hardison with a very small business. And I think that's one part of it. But then I think it's not just AI, but it's automation. So what we're seeing is there's a big, with all this equity money, Puerto Rico just went to where, without the guardrails that Arizona has, get equity money in the building law firms. You're seeing more and more competition and a saturation of the market with non-lawyer ownership. So what we're preaching and coaching to our masterminds and our members at PILMA is, we used to have this goal where you keep your labor under 40%, your marketing around 20%, and then, another 10%, then have 30% profit. Well, that's changing. I think you've got to get your labor under 30%. And to do that, there's 2 things: offshore and automation with AI and different other things. So this is what we're doing. And this is what we're going to try to teach in January. If you've got your SOPs, different processes of how a case goes along, that's where I would start. I would feed it into either Claude or ChatGPT and say, okay, which of these processes can we automate? And then pick 1 or 2 and then get it to help you automate it. And listen, this thing can write code. I mean, there's just so much out there. Or if you just don't have the interest or the bandwidth, then go ahead and hire somebody like Even Up, Supio, some of these companies, Precedents, Foundation AI, whatever you got to do. But I think it's more economical to do it in-house if you can. And, we're looking at right now, we're trying to hire somebody from India or Pakistan that we can get for like $10, $12 an hour to be like our AI architect, engineer, whatever you want to call them. And I think that's the way to go. In the U.S., these guys make anywhere from 120 to 180,000, but I can get somebody overseas for 20,000, 30,000 tops. But it's like everything else. You can't just pick the first lily that blooms. You gotta go through the process. If I was starting a law firm right now, I could kill it with the marketing, because I could take one person and brainstorm with that person and then use AI to create 90% of my marketing. There's so many things out there. I mean, you don't even have to do that in-house. I mean, we use it at PILMA. You got Opus clips. So you go ahead and you record an hour. It pops it into about 30 or 40, 30-second clips.
We use it as well.
Yeah. I mean, you got ad perplexity. Help you if you don't like to write copy or you don't know how to do the ads. There's probably 20 or 30 things out there that you can help you. Writing content. I'm not saying I will not use the content, but it can give you ideas. You can do it through ChatGPT, but you can also go to software out now that it will go out and look at give them your competitors. They'll search your websites, tell you where they're beating you, and then tell you what you need to do, and then go in there and code it. And then you can ask it for an outline of what we need to write about, and then maybe write an outline. And then you can dictate it. Write me an outline, but put it in Ken Hardison's voice. Because, I'm kind of a country guy, laid back. And so it's going to give it, I talk more casual, like we're in the living room all the time.
Yeah, if it was filled with a bunch of big pretentious words, it would seem off-brand.
Yeah. So it's got to be me. It's got to be real. But I just think you could blow it apart, man. I mean, so I see it helping in marketing that way. And then the last thing, which is coming, we got somebody testing something out now. I really think in the next 12, 18 months, there will be no more physical intake people. It will all be AI agents. And it scares me a little bit because that would be the last thing that I go AI, because I want to make sure it's vetted and there's no hiccups, there's no bugs in it, because you don't want a bug on a case that's a $20 million case. You can't afford it. But think about it like this way. For follow-up and stuff like that, use it now. But for the live calls, I'd be scared to do it right now. But in the next 12 months, I think it'll be there. So shit's changing, guys. I mean, I say this is the biggest thing since the Industrial Revolution. It's the biggest thing I've seen since I've been alive, since the chip. I thought the chip, when I got the first computers, my phone now is stronger, 10 times, 100 times faster and more productive than my first computer that I bought in 1989 and paid over $3,800 for a little computer that can't do what my phone can do now.
It probably just had a word processor and that's it.
Pretty much. And we had them looped together. It didn't even have the internet. I mean, they were looped together. But I really think those that don't embrace it, adopt it, you ain't got to do it all overnight. And listen, I'm not the know-it-all. I mean, there's probably somebody out there got a hell of a lot better idea. But let me put it to you this way. I know a lawyer that bought a law firm, and he's using AI even to give valuations. He's going in, running their cases and running their whole case list, pull it out of their CRM, and he can tell you what the firm's worth. They had 40 people. He bought it. He cut it down to 7 people with the same amount of work. And he's actually going to come to our event talk. They're going to be on a panel.
That's insane.
Yeah. I mean, it is insane, but I believe it because this guy's a genius. I mean, his deal is every quarter he wants to break a process and re-engineer it with AI somehow. He wants everybody in his firm rethinking how we do things. It's like the old story about, why are you cooking this roast in this long, why you got to have a long pot? Well, that's just the way I always did it. Well, why don't you cut the shank off and put it in a small pot? I mean, there's always better ways to do things. Put it in a pressure pot or whatever. People that not from the country not going to know what I'm talking about. But just because you always did it one way don't mean that's the way to do it, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
What you didn't realize is we're actually on a Southern cooking podcast. We're talking about home style cooking. This is great stuff. I think it sounds like the delineation for right now, at least in the current state of AI, in your understanding is don't replace real human interaction. Intake right now, it's not mature enough, but pretty much any sort of commoditized task that's repetitive, there's no reason why you can't figure out pieces of that you can automate.
Offshore and AI, let it do the sausage making, but have your butcher be like, think about this. If I got a case manager and they're only handling 80 cases, but if I got everybody doing all the work behind, all they got to do is face the client and make sure they're getting top, call them, every 2 weeks.
Yeah, their full-time job is great customer service.
Yeah, they can do 250 and call easily, make sure there's no gaps in treatments. They're getting the right treatment. You can use this stuff to look at it, make sure you're not missing a TBI case, that they're getting to the right treatment. I mean, there's just so much with this AI. I've been having a one-on-one with all my masterminds for the last 6 weeks. One of them figured out a way. He taught ChatGPT how to take an accident report and summarize it for his demands. He said it took him 7 times to train it. But once he trained it, now he's got it. He said, where it used to take them an hour, now they can do it in like 20 seconds. Okay? Just think what can happen. And that way you can scale, you know what I'm saying? And you can spend more money on marketing to compete with these 800-pound gorillas.
we've been looking at ways of lead scoring with AI. When firms start getting large amounts of leads and they can't handle all of them with the same high touch points that they would want to, triaging those and prioritizing the ones that actually need to be called immediately, and then triaging the ones that just get somewhat deprioritized. But there's all types of things that could be automated.
It's interesting too. I agree with Ken that like there's so much opportunity in the legal space to use AI, but like the last domino to fall will be the personal interactions. And the AI intake is where there's a huge opportunities for law firms, because intake teams is traditionally a very hard role to staff for and keep people in those roles. It's hard for someone to come in, to take that role, to deal with all those inbound phone calls, to know what's a case, what's not a case, to keep people around. Just every law firm I've ever talked to, it's like a challenge finding good intake people, keeping them, and growing that team. So it is a ripe opportunity for AI to help solve that problem. So there's a ton of money to be made. But on the other side as well, I'm also extremely against it, because I like selfishly like working with businesses where I can like talk to a human as fast as possible. Soon enough though, like to your point, Ken, I might not know the difference. And that might be when in 12, 18 months might be the difference that I can't tell anymore between what a human and AI is. But I personally still prefer that when I pick up the phone, if I'm going to work with a company, I'm going to give them my money, I want like the faster I can get on the phone to someone and talk to a real human, the happier I am. Even if AI could technically solve it faster for me, I like that touch of having a human talk to me when I'm calling them.
So right now with intake, like I think the hottest thing out there, he launched it at our summit in May, and all our members that are using it that I talk to, they love it. It's called Speed AI. So it listens to every call, because that's the key. That's where most leakage. Back in the old days before AI, that's where when I was doing consulting work, I knew I could make a money if I go to their office, because I do about 5 ghost calls and they sucked about 80% of the time, and they were just dropping money.
So intake was the leaky bucket, was the big hole.
Yep. And so this kind of stops that. Plus what we're seeing is people are using this. They're able to jump on, like you said, they're scoring the leads and make sure they get back with these people sooner, faster, and are not dropping potential 6-figure cases because their live agents are dropping the ball. And like you say, it's a burnout job. I think it's the most important job in the law firm, because if you don't get clients, it's over with, right? I mean, really, you think about it. I had one lawyer in Charlotte, Rock Hill. First thing I told him to do, I said, he had no intake people, had no systems for monitor. He went out and hired a company. They went in, and he was signing up 200 cases a year. Within 18 months, the next year, without spending any more money on marketing, they were signing up 500 cases. And I talked to him this week, and they're going to do 700 this year. But you don't know what you don't know, right? I mean, you just don't. You don't. And so I think a lot of people, sometimes I hate listening to those calls. Let's be honest with you. I used to go call my office and put in a different voice, or
that's got to be difficult for you. They're like, Ken, is that you?
Yeah, or get somebody, my friends, to call, and it's embarrassing when they screw it up, because you got your good friend there, and they're looking at me like, and I'm thinking, but you got to do it, right? I mean, you can't fix what you don't know about, right? I tell everybody that.
We'll know that AI is ready to handle intake when AI can handle ghost calling and calling up firms and testing them. And if the firms can't tell that the AI is an AI, then you know that it's ready for prime time.
There's a new business for somebody right there. There's a good business idea.
We had another guest on here previously, Ted from Juvo Leads, where he was really big on it. He's like, one of the biggest things is like firms don't do it enough is like listening to intake call recordings and giving coaching to those people. It's like, just because you have an intake staff, you're not listening to the recordings, spot checking them at best. You have no idea if they're doing a good job or bad job and how big that hole is in the bucket and how big it's leaking. It could be a tiny hole, or it could be a massive crater where leads are just falling through, where they're just DQing stuff that would have been a great case, or mishandling a situation and losing potential new clients.
Yeah, Carrie Colby White's come out. She's created, hired a developer, created this whole software with AI that does just that, listens to them. If they ain't got enough empathy or whatever, then it sends a report. She'll work with them one-on-one to try to work on their weaknesses, But how could you handle this better? There's a lot of things out there if you're willing to do it. You know what I'm saying? Some lawyers want to just stick their head in the sand and just throw more money at marketing. And I think that's the wrong play. I think you need to optimize what you got and then start thinking about spending more money.
Mark, that's Ken using my orange juice metaphor. Squeeze more juice out of the same oranges, a lot easier than growing another tree.
Absolutely.
You've given some great ideas, but how can firms avoid shiny object syndrome, right? Like they hear about speed AI or they hear about all these other AI tools. How do they know which are the ones that they actually should tackle and investigate versus the ones that are just something else that, fly by night won't work out for them?
Not even thinking tools wise, is like, how do they even focus on where to start on their operation?
I think the big deal is, I tell everybody I see, do not sign any loan contracts. Have a 90-day bailout clause. If anybody wants you to sign a contract that's doing AI, it'll give you a bailout clause or it's month to month. I don't care how great they are, just run away from it. Because here's what's happening, guys. There's a new shit coming out every week.
Oh yeah, it's like the new bubble. It's like the .com bubble.
And this is my opinion. Once the lawyers embrace this, they're going to start doing a lot of this stuff in-house. And these companies are not going to be the all in all. And for right now, I think they're great, but there's going to be some that survive because they're going to have to adapt too, right? And there's not enough room for as many of, you look at right now, you got 2 or 3 leaders in each thing. You got Supio, you got Even Up, you got, different ones out there say we can do the chronologies, we can do the demands. Well, it's Darwinism. The strongest are going to survive, the ones that adapt, the ones, But where to start, I think, goes back to what I said. I think you start with your processes and try to automate your processes and your marketing if you got time at the same time. And then I like using it as a thought partner. I really do. I get to wondering, it might put me out of a job, but that's okay too. I'm almost 70. I don't give a shit no more.
That's going to be the name of this episode. Yeah, I don't give a shit no more.
No, I don't. I mean, because I'm here to help people that won't help. But listen, if they can figure it out with ChatGPT, power to them. I just want them to be successful, man. Whether it's with me or without me. I believe in abundance. I believe there's enough money out there for everybody. But I think you just can't sit on your thumb and wait for it to come. You got to take action. People ask me, what is it that makes some people more successful? Well, they get shit done. They're laser focused. And you were talking about the shiny objects. I have the shiny object syndrome. Most entrepreneurs do. It took me years to put blinders on. So now I don't grab at everything. I look at it and I think about it. I go to ChatGPT. I go to my team. And anything that I'm looking at, I don't want to sign no long-term contracts. But the way I've always, the last 20 years is I come up with, at the end of the year or whenever, 5 main things I want to accomplish. You can call them goals or whatever. I call it 5 main things. And then we do quarterly planning, strategic planning, and we sit there with our executive team. And in fact, I've got to go to Charleston this afternoon, and I'm actually my last consulting client. I'm finishing up with them and help do their quarterly strategic planning meeting. We sit there and brainstorm and, come up with 3 projects and then lay out what tasks have got to be done and then what it is, who it is, and then what date it's got to be done by. And we just stick to those 2 or 3 projects for that quarter instead of trying to do 20 things at one time. You know what I'm saying? And just be very methodical about it. And what I've found is I read a book called The 12-Week Year. And then also I was a certified scaling up coach. The guy that wrote the Rockefeller Habits. He actually spoke at our event one year, about 3 years ago, I think. Vern Harnish is kind of combine those two because Vern's real big on the 5 main things. And then this guy was really big on doing projects, 12-week projects. And some projects might take 2 quarters, But the deal is you really get focused and follow through. And people and I used to be this way, so I can talk about my former self. When you like to grab the shiny objects, you'll get something started and then you'll go grab something else. Your team gets really
fatigued.
Yes. Good word. Because they can't get finished with one fucking thing before you start something else. And it's just exhausting for them. And I had to learn that the hard way. And thank God I had people that were not yes people. And they finally just come to me and said, Ken, you're killing us.
There's a book that John and I both have read by Dan Martell, Buy Back Your Time. And I've listened to a bunch of podcasts about him speaking. And he has a funny story. He says his execs came to him and were like, hey, can you just tell us what book you're reading so we can just read it and get ahead of like where you're going to be next week and like all the new things you want to implement? It's just easier that way than you reading the book and then coming in the next week's meeting full of things you want to change. They're like, it's just easier if we just get ahead of it. So can you just let us know when you're reading a new book and we'll just read it with you?
98, I read the book Good to Great, which is a great book by Collins.
Oh, great book.
And after that, I wrote a damn manifesto based on that book, and it had everybody, yeah. But I was the same way. I had to bite my tongue, but I just learned that it's better in the long run.
Jon and I have operationalized shiny object syndrome. So we both are, definitely have that issue. But what we've done is we've actually hired, so we have a director of operations who runs all of our projects for us. He's fantastic at solving things, but we were throwing so much stuff at him that, especially in the AI, we hired someone dedicated to just testing out and running our AI projects for us. So like, if we're interested in something, their job is to go run with it and come back to us and like do the tests. We're not wasting our time. They're not like exhausting the rest of the team. That's someone's full-time role, is trying out new tools, new processes, reporting back to the team and deciding if we want to roll it out to the greater good without us wasting too much of our time, but also constantly testing new things. And we're willing to invest in that person and those roles so that we're always testing new things. If 8 out of 10 of them are a waste of a time, but we get 2 really good things out of it, it's worth it.
We had to do that because we were pulling down ourselves because we were constantly building these things. And like Mark and I are hands-on actually building workflows, automations, and AI tools.
Yeah, if Jon and I like get into it, like time's go out the window. Like there goes a day.
And then when we monopolized all of our time, we started passing that to the rest of our team, and then it was monopolizing their time. So we said, let's take a step back. Is AI going to be here forever or for at least like the long term? And we said yes. Then we realized, all right, we have to take someone who understands our business, who's already a part of our team, and siphon off their role and say they are only going to be doing these AI projects. And like Mark said, if 20% of what comes out of her work winds up being something that can be utilized, fantastic, that's a win. And it's not taking up anyone else's time. So that has been great for us. I know you had mentioned like maybe bringing someone in from offshore and having them do a similar role for you. I think that's advice that firms can look at. But the one thing that I would recommend is that before you actually have a contractor or a full-time staffer who does this, is actually build out your list of what you want them to do. Because you can't just say, hey, join and I want you to figure out AI and how we're going to use it. Right? Identifying already a human having gone through and saying, these are the places in the organization that I think we can automate or how we can leverage AI. And then having someone who has the expertise technically to go in and apply the AI or the automation to those already known issues. That's where the domain expertise in the legal space needs to cross over to the technical expertise on the AI side.
I think that's smart. I really do.
I guess we'll start wrapping this up. So, new PILMA conference. Let's end with that, with a plug. When is it? Where is it going to be? And give me the full elevator pitch.
January the 15th through 17th in the JW Marriott in Orlando, Florida. It's 2.5 days. It'll be 2 days of speakers and some demos of some of the vendors. We got some lawyers coming down that are using AI and they're going to share how they're using it. We've got some thought leaders and experts going to talk about where do you start. And then the last day, half a day, we're going to break it up into 3-hour workshops, one section for owners and COOs, one section for marketers, and one section for intake management for people.
That's smart.
And what we were trying to do is, like, this is what you need to be working on first, and this is how to do it, and kind of interaction out of a small setting. And I'm excited about it. You know, we did probably August 2023, we did an AI deal in Charlotte. And where it has come since that is amazing. It's mind-blowing. I feel much better about this one. Things have settled down a little bit. It's still not completely settled, but I'm actually seeing lawyers, how they're using it and talking to them. And I'm more into it now. So I'm excited about it, you know, but yeah, that's the deal. We're going to announce it 1st of September. We've got room for 400, but we're expecting a couple hundred lawyers there. I mean, to be honest with you, I don't think I'm going to do it streaming like I do the summit because I think the workshops, it would be impossible to do streaming. And plus, I think you really need to get down there and mingle with other lawyers and kind of just pick their brains, and pick these experts' brains and figure out what's next.
I think you're going to need everyone that goes to that conference to have a paid like ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini license before they show up, because they're going to be, the moment they start listening to stuff, like the hands-on stuff, they need to start implementing while they're there and ask questions to experts while they're at the conference versus like have all these ideas and try to take them away. And then you're just going to be very lost. Like they need to be ready to get their hands dirty while they're at the conference.
I agree.
For those of you who hadn't heard of PILMA before this podcast, make sure you check it out. Ken runs an amazing mastermind group. If you're a plaintiff's firm, consider joining PILMA. I attend the summit every year. I've spoken at the summit the past 3 years. It's a great event. Sounds like this AI conference is going to be great as well. Thank you so much, Ken, for joining us. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Make sure you subscribe. We've got new episodes coming out every single week. We will see you all soon on the Jon and Marc Podcast.
Thanks, Ken.
Thank you.